Today, we'll have a mind-blowing discussion about how Spacex Falcon 9 rocket will crash in the moon after 7 years of floating in space. Stick around to discover how the rocket will sink deep into the surface of the moon, resulting in a destructive explosion. The seriousness with which SpaceX intends to launch the rockets they've been developing into space, particularly to the red planet Mars, is well known to all. Keeping in mind that NASA awarded SpaceX a $2.95 billion contract to use the Starship to transport astronauts from Lunar Orbit to the moon's surface, they must begin preparing for this contract immediately in order to finish it on time. However, it appears as though something magnificent is about to take place right away. There have been rumors that SpaceX launched one of its Falcon 9 rockets into space 7 years ago, and it got lost in space after running out of propellant, and right now, it's on its way to crash into the moon's surface. In this case, it's possible that SpaceX has completely forgotten about this particular rocket and has decided to simply let it float around in space, ignoring the $20 million investment in its manufacturing and allowing it to crash and explode into flames and even ashes. Consider burning $20 million to ashes. Elon Musk is so wealthy, so burning $20 million is equivalent to lavishing $1,000 from a $1 million crash. In other words, Elon Musk's bank account balance will not be impacted by the ashes of $20 million in his personal possession. What's the point of being concerned about the crash of this particular rocket if it won't cause SpaceX to lose anything in the process? But if we want to be economically conscious, does that demonstrate a high level of financial intelligence? Obviously not. Even though SpaceX has, in some ways, neglected this Falcon 9 rocket, NASA data analysts have kept their eyes on it, monitoring it from every angle, much like a monitoring spirit. The space analyst Bill Gray was tracking this same SpaceX rocket near the moon from his home in Maine when his computer software gave him an unexpected reading. Gray said that he had tracked the Falcon 9 booster's chaotic orbit since it launched in 2015 as part of a mission to send a space weather satellite on a million-mile journey. Since then, the rocket's derelict second stage has been hurtling through space for years. Gray, an independent orbital dynamics researcher, figured out why he couldn't get booster readings to show up on his Project Pluto software. According to him, the SpaceX rocket is on a collision course with the moon. In his words, he said, "I realized that my software was complaining because it couldn't project the orbit past March 4th. Gray, who has been tracking space junk, asteroids, and objects close to Earth for about 25 years, told the Washington Post. Other space observers have confirmed the data and agreed that the rocket, which weighs about 4 metric tons, is set to crash into the far side of the moon around March this year, in what Gray believes will be the first unintentional case of space junk hitting the moon. The expected collision will create a new crater, but it will not cause significant damage to the moon, according to Gray, who noted that it is built to take this sort of abuse. It is expected that the rocket will land at a speed of approximately 2.58 kilometers per second. While some astronomers have stated that the news of the rocket hitting the moon is interesting but not a big deal, Gray's discovery has shed new light on the potentially growing issues associated with space junk floating in deep space. According to Jonathan McDowell, an astronomer at the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics who confirmed Gray's findings, as more players enter deep space, we need to pay more attention to the junk we leave behind. It's not so much about what SpaceX is doing now, because leaving your junk in deep Earth orbit and simply abandoning it is perfectly standard practice. Again, let's flash back to how it all started. In February 2015, SpaceX launched its first interplanetary mission from Cape Canaveral, Florida. The Falcon 9 traveled 1 million miles, nearly 4 times the distance between Earth and the Moon, to assist the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's Deep Space Climate Observatory in beginning its journey to Lagrange Point 2, a gravitationally stable solar orbit on the opposite side of the Sun from our planet. However, the temperature was so high after the rocket's second stage completed a long burn to reach a transfer orbit that the booster did not have enough fuel to return to Earth's atmosphere. According to meteorologist Eric Berger in Ars Technica, the rocket also lacked the energy to escape the gravity of the Earth-Moon system, resulting in the booster's chaotic orbit for nearly 7 years. The best practice for launches of spacecraft intended to orbit the Earth is to reserve enough fuel in a rocket's upper stage to return it to Earth's atmosphere, where it will burn up. This is what SpaceX and most Western rocket companies have traditionally done to assist in debris control in low Earth orbit, Berger wrote. Of course, there is no atmosphere for the stage to burn up on the moon. 57-year-old Gray said that there are dozens of objects in high orbits around the moon at any given time that move slowly enough for him and other colleagues to take a short series of observations. He's been tracking the SpaceX rocket and updating its orbit with his software every few weeks or months. The expert, whose Project Pluto astronomical software offers commercial and freeware data research to amateur and professional astronomers, recognized three possibilities for an object in such a chaotic orbit. The rocket could collide with the moon, strike Earth, or gather enough energy to propel it past the moon and around the sun. In his own words, "I've always wished for one to land on the moon because we don't learn anything from the other cases." Perhaps his intent is to carry out more research from this particular rocket crash coming up on March 4th, so that more rocket explosion and impact effect research will be carried out. When Gray learned on January 14th that the rocket was expected to crash in the moon, he contacted a group of astronomers to confirm that the data was correct. He noted that the group was made up of several amateur-level astronomers from the United States and Europe who do professional-level work, and that their observations matched his. When a couple of them sent in their results, they confirmed the initial data and made the actual impact time and location much more certain, Gray explained. For a long time, space junk and debris have been a problem. NASA monitors approximately 20,000 pieces of space junk, including old and broken satellites. After receiving notification that space junk could endanger astronauts outside the International Space Station, NASA abruptly cancelled a planned spacewalk around November 2021. The announcement came just weeks after Russia launched a missile that destroyed a dead satellite, polluting low Earth orbit with over 1,500 pieces of space junks, forcing the astronauts and cosmonauts to evacuate space station and board their spacecraft in case they needed to flee. But fortunately, something contradictory to this whole story came up, and it was coming from the same Bill Gray. He is now trying to convince the public that the supposed SpaceX rocket that was floating in space and ready to crash to the surface of the moon no longer belongs to SpaceX, rather China, and SpaceX doesn't know anything about the rocket. But why does Bill Gray take pleasure in presenting us with issues that are diametrically opposed to one another? How come he didn't confirm this before he intended to announce it to the world? And what is particularly dramatic about the entire situation is that neither SpaceX nor Elon Musk has said anything about the rumor, nor has Elon Musk taken any part of the discussion to Twitter as he used to do. So the rumor is still under the mat. Gray revealed that the debris set to slam into the lunar surface is from the Long March 3C rocket, which China launched in 2014 from the Changes 5T1 mission. Gray, who oversees the Project Pluto software used to track near-Earth objects, revealed that NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory JPL engineer John Giorgini pointed out the error in his calculation. Gray looked into other past launches to see if they could be the object, and he discovered that the booster from China's Change 5T1 mission was the most likely suspect. Whatever its origin, the space object is expected to collide with the moon on March 4th, according to current predictions. Scientists, on the other hand, are unconcerned because the moon lacks an atmosphere to protect it from space debris and thus accumulates naturally occurring destructive impacts on a regular basis. In a statement, NASA described the event as an exciting research opportunity, and the agency plans to use its Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter (LRO) probe to observe the sinkhole created by the explosion of this object. What kind of research do you think scientists will carry out on the moon after the Falcon 9 rocket finally crashes there? Be sure to check out your favorite SpaceX video here.